right, we're back at it on a month-long journey through the nightmares with yet another film to check off that bucket list of terror. This is probably going to be my last special review of the month. That is, films that come out in the month of October while I'm doing Interpreting the Scares. Previously, I've done other things like Jeepers Creepers Reborn, Halloween Ends, Werewolf by Night, other things like that. But today, I'm going to be talking about the latest addition to the Bad Ben universe of films. I already talked about one film that came out earlier this year, and now he's come out with yet another one. This one's called Bad Ben Undead. This time, Nigel Bach as Tom Riley has to head up against a horde of zombies. In the past, he's dealt with a lot of ghosts, a lot of demons of the sort, but never has he ever dealt with zombies. But now's his time. As I've said in the past, I am kind of a big fan when it comes down to the Bad Ben franchise, but you really do have to be in kind of a tight niche to enjoy them. For me, when I started the series, I wasn't really all that engaged, but throughout all the different films that have come out, I'm not even sure how many at this point. What, 10, 11? I'm not sure. The more I watched them, the more I really did appreciate them. The more I laughed out loud, the more I fell in love with this character. At this point, it's safe to say that if Nigel Bach comes out with a new film, I'm gonna be watching it for better or worse. The last movie was interesting enough, but I was really interested to see what he would do with zombies. And the end result, I can't really complain. Obviously, he's a very, very low budget type of director, so the look of the zombies are exactly what you imagine them to be when it comes down to him. So basically, what do the zombies look like? They look like a bunch of people walking around in Halloween masks. Rubber Halloween masks with fake blood on them. That's essentially what the zombies are in this movie. So don't go in expecting some great practical effects, gore and makeup. No. Somebody went to Walmart or something, picked up a bunch of just random zombie-like rubber masks. They put them on, stretch out their arms like usual, and they go, ugh. Typical, I would say because this series as a whole is kind of a comedy, that the writing of the jokes in this wasn't too bad. I actually think the writing of the jokes in this film specifically was better than the last film, which for me was kind of touch and go.
We're out here in the middle. I don't even know where the fuck we are. It smells like ass. That might be me.
Personally, I think a big part of that is because of the extra step that Nigel Bach took from doing something different than he normally does. I mean, you got a bunch of movies already with ghosts and demons or whatever, but he's never done zombies, so there's a whole world of new material here that he can approach. I think he did a great job. I think he had a lot of great chemistry with his on-screen lead. There's a lot to appreciate here because whenever I take a look at sequels in general, I always try to find something that feels the same yet different, which is exactly what Undead feels like. I will say, however, when it comes down to the narrative and when it comes down to the pacing, the film just isn't up to snuff. The reason why I say that is because it kind of feels pretty aimless. Like, they filmed the last movie and it literally starts where the last one ended, where we find out that there are zombies. And I can almost sense, as a filmmaker, that Nigel Bach took the camera and he's like, alright, let's make the new one immediately. And so they just start walking and they're trying to figure it out on the spot. And that's what it feels like when you're watching. You're like, they have no idea what they're doing. They have no plan of action. They have no end goal. They're just taking a camera with them, looking around the woods and finding stuff to talk about. And that's the movie. Story-wise, it just doesn't seem like there's a point. There doesn't seem like they're trying to do anything specific other than what do we do now? Which is like the entire movie. What do we do now? There's like an entire segment of the film where they walk through a zoo and they're like, oh my gosh, look at those geese. Oh my gosh, look at that lion, it might eat me. Oh my gosh, what is that? And sure, when I was watching it, I was kind of laughing because it seems so obscurely random. But at the same time, it does nothing for the story. And there's a good chunk of the movie that really annoyed me. And that was the part of the movie where this guy, literally, for several minutes, lists off individual people that died. Here are their graves. Here are their graves now that there's a hole in front of them. Here's some footage of some zombies walking around that kind of look like those people. And he does it over and over and over again. And the reason why they're doing that is because the fans of the series have paid to get their name into the movie. Let's say if 20 people paid to get their name into the movie, there's this guy talking about all these individual people that died one by one, over and over and over again, and the pacing just isn't there. Nigel Bach might crack a joke about how the person died, and that's funny, but it's only funny for the first couple times, not the next 15 to 20 times that I swear to God are listed off. That goes into the pacing. I think I said something similar in the last review as I'll say right now, and that is the original films in the Bad Ben franchise. They were all basically just done by Nigel himself, and he didn't really need the extra funding to make a movie. He would just carry a camera around the house and just make crap up as he goes along, which is what this movie is as well, but because he needs the extra funding, you just have dozens of names thrown in throughout the movie that just feel unnatural. And I'd be lying if I said that didn't knock down my points, because when I watch a movie, I want the pacing to feel natural. I want it to feel organic. I want them to be going somewhere specific, and never once in this film do they feel like they're going somewhere specific. Nothing really happens specific to the narrative until the very, very end of the film. And trust me, I really like the end of the film. I liked the stinger, just like the last movie, where it hinted at the next film being about zombies. This one does something very specific about the next movie. And I can't wait for the next movie. I just fear that the next movie is gonna have even more names because they paid to get their names in the movie. Personally, I think that's worse than paid sponsorship in a film. You know, where you see somebody drinking a Dr. Pepper like this. I'd rather have that. That makes more sense because people actually do sit there at a table and drink Dr. Pepper at times. So the point is, did I enjoy the movie? I did. I just wish it was a little bit more simple. Because at the end of the day, the entire runtime of the film was like an hour, 45 minutes or something like that. If they took off 15 minutes of the film and made it an hour and a half, got rid of that person listing off person after person, it would have made a lot more sense. It would have made it a little bit more natural from a progression, from a pacing standpoint. And I would actually venture to say it would be funnier of a movie as well. Because we all know when it comes down to cracking jokes as a whole, a lot of that comes down to timing. And the timing wasn't always there for Bad Ben Undead, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens with the next movie. I always hope for the best. Now, let's take a look at what I scored Bad Ben Undead, which was a C+ letter grade. Final overall score of 68%, 68 out of 100 possible stars, and you'll see from my unbiased score that I didn't really score it all that highly. 50%, that's pretty darn low, but of course, because I enjoy the film overall, my bias score was quite a bit higher, and that's what you're gonna expect with any of these Bad Ben films. If you don't enjoy one, you probably won't like the rest. If you love one, it won't really matter how good or bad it technically is, and that's basically true for Bad Ben Undead as well, but I do prefer some of the earlier films because they were simpler, and they didn't have all these people paying to get their names into the film. To me, that's just bad narrative structure. But what do I know? I'm just a lowly YouTube movie critic. But until next time, guys, have you seen Bad Ben Undead? Please let me know in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bad Ben. Hit the bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out!